Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into the weeds, or maybe I should say the foundations, of the Atlas CMS user guide.
That's right. Our mission today is, well, pretty focused. We're looking at those crucial first pages.
Exactly. Forget trying to digest the whole thing at once. We're extracting the key stuff from the intro and the getting started bits, really just helping you understand how to begin with Atlas.
Think of it as getting the map before you start the journey. The guide itself really frames Atlas CMMS as the central hub for maintenance excellence.
Yeah, it talks about it being a genuine shortcut, streamlining operations, boosting asset reliability, and crucially, making decisions based on actual data.
And the guide, it's online, but we're drawing a lot from the PDF version. The guide points out some practical benefits there.
Like offline access. That seems important.
Definitely. For technicians maybe out of range or even just annotating it for training sessions, little things that make a difference.
And it's structured quite well, isn't it? The guide mentions chapters based on roles.
Yes, exactly. Administrators, technicians, managers, viewers, even requesters. So ideally, you can jump to what's relevant for you.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that core idea first, based on the guide's intro. What is Atlas CMMS, really?
At its heart, like you said, it's a centralized system, a single source of truth.
Right. Not just like scattered spreadsheets or binders. It's one place. What does that actually let you do, though?
Well, the guide lists the key capabilities that come from having everything together. Things like tracking your equipment, scheduling and assigning work orders, managing your parts inventory, and analyzing how your assets are actually performing. The integration is really the power here.
So it's not just like 4 separate modules sitting next to each other. The data flows between them.
Precisely. That's the key. You can link, say, performance data directly to preventative maintenance scheduling.
Got it. So that helps teams get out of just fighting fires, right? Moves them towards being more proactive.
Exactly what the guide suggests. Digitizing processes, connecting the data points. It leads to more efficient work and those data-driven decisions it talks about.
Makes sense. The guide also says it covers the whole life cycle, doesn't it? From the initial setup onwards.
It does, all the way through to ongoing use and reporting. And it lays out the main sections, basically the chapters, that map out this journey.
Which gives us a sneak peek at what Atlas can do and maybe what we'll cover later.
Absolutely. These are the core functional areas. There's getting started, which is, well, mostly us today.
Right.
Then initial setup and configuration, workflow management, inventory management, and finally, reporting and analytics.
Those sound like the big pillars of any CMMS worth its salt.
They really are, and the guide dives into each one.
Okay, so we've got the big picture, what Atlas is, what it aims to do, but practically speaking, how do you even find your way around? Let's unpack the getting started navigation basics the guide covers early on.
Right. So the guide emphasizes the main menu as your primary navigation tool.
Okay, the standard left-hand menu bar we see in a lot of web apps. Always there.
Correct. Available from any screen, typically on the left. And while it might seem basic, the guide points out its structure is important. It's organized into logical sections.
Logical how? What are the main groupings?
The guide lists 4 main areas. First, work management.
Okay.
That bundles together things like work orders, preventive maintenance, and incoming requests. Basically, the doing part of maintenance.
Yeah, action items, yeah.
Exactly. Then there's asset management. This covers the assets themselves, their locations.
Where they physically are.
Right. And also parts inventory associated with them, and meters.
Meters, you mean like tracking operating hours or cycles?
Precisely. The guide includes meters here because they're key data points tied to asset condition and often trigger usage-based maintenance. It's smart how locations and parts are grouped here, too. It reflects how you think about a job, right? What machine, where is it, what parts might I need?
Yeah, that structure actually makes a lot of practical sense for a technician.
It does seem designed that way. The third area is analytics and reporting, simply called analytics.
The how we doing section.
That's the one. And finally, administration. This is where admins handle the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Like users and permissions.
Users' permissions, yes. Also, people and teams, vendors and contractors, setting up categories to organize things, managing files, and general system settings.
So you navigate by clicking these main items or using the little drop-down arrows for the sub-menus inside them. That's the basic map.
That's the core roadmap, yes. But the guide also highlights a few other helpful navigation points early on. One I found particularly interesting is the emphasis on contextual help.
Contextual help, meaning help is right there on the screen, not hidden away.
That's exactly it. The guide mentions tooltips, in-app tutorials, detailed explanations appearing right where you need them within the application.
That's huge.
It really is. It suggests a design philosophy focused on learning as you go, rather than constantly having to consult a separate manual, cuts down frustration, speeds up learning.
Definitely a big plus for adoption. What else?
Some simple practical tips too, like how to cancel an action, usually just clicking outside the pop-up window. Sounds minor, but it stops you from accidentally confirming something.
Good tip. Avoids those oops moments.
And importantly, the guide touches on updating and refreshing data.
Just hitting refresh in your browser.
Well, yes, but the guide specifically calls it out, especially after things like data imports. It implies the system deals with potentially large or dynamic data sets.
So it's a reminder that to make good decisions, you need the latest information loaded.
Exactly. It connects back to that whole data-driven promise. You need data integrity, and sometimes that means ensuring your view is fully up to date. Simple, but critical.
Okay, so we've covered the what's and the how to get around basics based on the guide's initial sections. We know what Atlas CMS is aiming for, and we have the map, the main menu, contextual help. Where does the guide steer us immediately after this, and what's coming up for our future deep dives?
Right, so following these navigation basics, the guide, logically, moves straight into initial setup and configuration.
Feels like that's squarely in the admin's court.
Primarily, yes. It's all about building the system's foundation, setting up the overall system parameters, defining that crucial asset hierarchy, how you organize all your equipment, adding users and teams, defining permissions, loading in your initial data. It's about tailoring Atlas to your specific operation.
The essential groundwork. Then presumably it gets into the day-to-day usage.
Exactly. The next major section the guide tackles is workflow management. This is the operational core.
Like creating work orders.
Creating, assigning, editing, tracking work orders, yeah. Also setting up those PM schedules, time-based or meter-based, handling incoming work requests from others, basically the entire life cycle of maintenance tasks.
Where the actual maintenance processes live inside the system.
Precisely where they get digitized. And after workflow, it covers inventory management.
Parts and spares. Always a headache without a system.
Tell me about it. So the guide covers adding parts, tracking stock levels, maybe managing different storerooms or warehouses, associating parts with assets, tracking usage, and even managing the vendors you buy parts from.
Getting that under control saves so much time and money.
No question. And then the final major piece the guide covers is reporting and analytics.
Right, making sense of all the data you've been putting in.
Exactly. How to generate reports on, well, almost anything. Asset downtime, PM compliance, work order backlog, inventory costs, technician productivity, and crucially, how to interpret those reports to find insights and actually improve things.
That's where it all comes together, isn't it? The setup, the workflows, the inventory data.
Yeah.
It all feeds into the analytics so you can actually be proactive and data-driven like the guide promises at the start. Features like PMs and analytics really unlock that higher level of maintenance.
That's the goal, and the guide aims to show you how to get there, step by step.
Okay, so to recap this deep dive, we've looked at the Atlas CMMS user guide's introduction, established what the system is about, that centralized hub for maintenance excellence, and we've covered the essential navigation tools like the main menu and contextual help. Basically, the first steps the guide lays out.
And getting these fundamentals down, it really is the crucial first step. It takes away that initial feeling of being overwhelmed and gives you the confidence to explore the system's deeper capabilities.
Atlas aims to streamline things, improve reliability, use data smartly, and the guide seems like the roadmap to achieving that. We've just explored the entry points today.
Absolutely. There's so much more depth to cover from the guide in future dives. Configuring the system, mastering those work processes, getting inventory optimized, really leveraging the analytics. Plenty to look forward to.
It might seem basic, just learning a menu structure, but it's foundational.
It really is. So maybe think about this. How does just mastering the map, knowing where things are in a complex system like Atlas, immediately shift your perspective? Instead of feeling lost, you know exactly where to click to find, say, work orders or asset details or reports. How does gaining just this basic navigation skill set the stage differently for you to approach and ultimately harness all those powerful workflows and data insights we've glimpsed that Atlas offers?